Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of Team Bankroll. I'm your host, the big man on campus, here with our returning guest, Nigel Seeley. Today, we're taking a look at some of the English lower leagues, the Championship, League One, League Two. Sometimes there's a lot more value and possibilities on making money in some of the lower leagues other than the Premier League. We'll kind of give you our view on how we look at those leagues, what you can do to improve, and what you can look for if you're just getting into kind of dabbling with some of the lower leagues. Obviously, a championship right below the Premier League. You got some teams coming up, which we talked about. Cardiff City's out. Wolves is heading up. Fulham or Aston Villa will head up. You also look at the teams coming into the championship from the Premier League: Swansea, Stoke City, and West Bromwich Albion. How will they kind of handle the season? You look at the bottom league, though, and you look at the bottom of the league. A team like Sunderland, who we saw in the Premier League just 2 years ago, I kind of want to start there, Nigel, and then we'll kind of get into what we look for quickly. What has happened with Sunderland? What a complete descent into just nowhere. What has happened with Sunderland?
Just terrible management. Just not management from the actual manager itself, management from the board. He's got players on 70 grand, 80 grand that he can't get rid of. I mean, Jack Rodwell. They've got a wage bill that's absolutely astronomical. They can't fill the stadium. I mean, obviously, it's in Sunderland is one of the most deprived cities in terms of employment in the UK. So when things are bad, their whole life is behind the football club. It's very difficult to go to attend the matches, and it's just an awful state of affairs. But one thing is, they'll do very well in League One. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they'll get a new manager in. I wouldn't be surprised to see Sam Allardyce go back there. He doesn't need the money. 6 million quid he's just been handed out. He was brilliant at Sunday. They loved him there. And he's the sort of bloke that'll go in and galvanise the club and turn it around. I think already on the anti-post prices, I haven't seen anything come out yet because we're not quite sure of the lineups of who's going to be in the division and who's going to be up. But to me, I think they could win it very similar. We saw last year Wigan and Blackburn went down from the Championship. They went down into League One and both of them absolutely run away with it. First and second, they were top from the first day to the end of the season. And I think if Sunderland get the right man in charge and he clears the decks, starts again, keeps 2 or 3 players, get rid of the high earners, they've got a massive fan base. Everyone's going to love playing them. And if it doesn't matter, whatever success they have there, the local hit will get behind them. And if it's success in League Two, League One, Championship, wherever, they will be there in their numbers. And I think they will absolutely run away with that division next season. Absolutely. Money talks in that league. And as the further you go down in the Premier League, people call it Premier League money talks. In League Two and League One, money is all that matters. If you've got the biggest wage to pay the best wages, you usually go up. And Sunderland have the biggest wages. And I think they'll be a major force next season.
We saw that with Wolves. Obviously, money talks. They were able to get the right manager as well, and that's one of the reasons they're up. But you look at kind of how you approach betting on the championship, League One, League Two. I go down even into the National League. Even when Salford City was in National League North, I bet that a little bit. League One, the home atmospheres aren't as important, as you know. The sides are obviously there's a big fan base, but it's not as pronounced as some of the bigger stadiums. Obviously, becoming an expert, you mentioned that in your in our Premier League video. You mentioned you become an expert on these leagues. Finding information. That is obviously the biggest thing in sports betting. If you can find information before the public, you can find information, you can work harder than everyone else, you will do well. Nigel obviously focuses on these leagues. That's all he focuses on. Ask him if he bets American sports. Do you bet American sports, Nigel?
I don't, I'm afraid. Every time I've dabbled in American football, I've
go.
always been told by someone else, and I've always lost. But I think with League Two, League Two is the sport. League Two and League One is 2 leagues that I covered. My local football team was AFC Wimbledon. I followed their journey from non-league to League Two and League One, and watched them get promoted a couple of seasons ago at Wembley. And I watched the games and I watched everyone. And what I found, from especially in League Two, is that it's so physical, it's so in your face. These guys, there's not much quality there, but it's a very, very physical game. And what I learned in League Two very quickly was that anybody can beat anybody. The team at the bottom can beat the team at the top. The team in the middle can beat. And home advantage meant nothing. There was hardly anybody watching. There was 3,000 people. So the home advantage wasn't big. So what I come to the conclusion, especially in League Two, I thought that no team should be shorter than 1.7, 1.6. And if any team was a favourite, a shorter price than 1.6, 1.5, to me, they were a lay. Because they had the form and everything like that. But if they lost one player from that side, or one player was injured, the kid coming in was a 17-year-old trainee. And it was massive. It was absolutely massive. And I don't think anybody's a very short price. So I think my first rule playing two is if you laid every favourite in League Two blind, I think you'd make money. Also, I think looking at the squads, looking at the players, team news is crucial. Like I say, if Manchester City have 4 injuries and they're 1.2 or 1.5 to win a game at home to, I don't know, to Everton, or 1.2 to win at home to 1.3 to win at home to Everton, and they have 4 injuries, they bring 4 international players in. If AFC Wimbledon have 3 injuries and they're in for money to beat Accrington at home or another side, Bury at home, and they have 3 injuries, the 3 kids one of the kids coming in might be 18. The goalie might come making his debut, never played before. These are huge. These are absolutely huge, especially, and I found as well that 2 or 3 key players in those sides meant the whole team fell apart. If you took 2 or 3 key players out of a League Two side, it was crucial. And so what I did is I read all the local papers early doors. I used to go into the websites, look at the team that I fancied, read the team news, find out if they were out, who was in. And I knew a knowledge of the lower league players better than I did the Premier League players. And I knew that if like Billy Key, for example, at Accrington Stanley, Billy Key does nothing. He scores the ball in the back of the net. He's been told he'll never have a career in football. He worked for a club at Accrington. The manager gave him a chance. And if Billy Key's in the side, he scores a goal every time. You take him out of the Accrington side, they're not as prolific. You take it, and I worked out who the key players were in the lower levels, and I knew how strong the replacements were. And the replacements weren't strong. I had team news the other day. I knew that one team in League Two they had nothing to play for. They were going to bring in 6 trialists, 6 under 18 boys playing against a team that needed to be in the playoffs, and the team that back moved from 1.5 to 1.3 and lost. So I got the information and still lost my money. But I think getting to know the players and getting to know who the key players are and getting to know exactly that the team news in that level is so important, much more so than any other league in the English football.
And you actually took my thunder. That's exactly what I was going to ask you. I mean, obviously, if you lose 3 players at Liverpool, I mean, there are going to be 3 great players that step right in. You lose Billy Key at Accrington Stanley. I mean, they're not going to score goals. They're not going to do anything. The major player, and look, it's evident in really any sport you deal with. If LeBron James is out for the Cavs, the Cavs are going to struggle. Some teams, it doesn't matter. They still have 1 or 2 other guys, but that major player on a team like Accrington Stanley is gigantic. You look at Billy Key this year, 25 goals for that club. He was important.
Yeah.
If you could find the info, which Nigel obviously has the leg up being in Britain, but in any sport, I deal with a lot of Nigel, small school college basketball. I'm talking about some of the small schools in Division One, the highest league. You got to be able to try to find those podcasts and blogs from student newspapers where they're going to give you some really high quality information. Some of the best bets I've ever made, some of my biggest bets I've ever made was from information that I got late or people didn't know about, and I kind of moved on it kind of under the radar. That's so important, and that's a great point. Read. Sit here and do the work. Read the articles, watch the videos, listen to the podcast. You'll find a lot of great nuggets.
I think the other thing about League Two as well, big man, which makes it very interesting, is that in the Premier League as well, you have so many odds-on favourites. In the League Two and League One, you look at the home sides, it's very rare that you have a team that is priced at odds-on. Very rare. I mean, if you've got 24 games, you might find 3 teams in favourites. Obviously, Luton, Accrington last season, Wigan and Blackburn in League One. But it's very, very rare you get an odds-on favourite. And that means the team is even more crucial because the differential between the two of them when they're at full strength is very similar. But you take 2 or 3 key players out, that team goes from 2.0 to 1.5 or 1.7 in my book. So really, in the Premier League, there's so many odds-on favourites that they could put out the price that they move, they could still beat them. And a lot of teams in the go to these clubs knowing they're going to get beat and put out a reserve side, knowing that the more important game against a team at the bottom of the table the week later. So in League Two, it's crucial. This is the most important factor, bar none.
So you would probably say League Two is your favorite league to bet on?
I mean, it was. I mean, this season, last season, I was all in on Luton to win League Two. I knew they had a good manager, and they had good money, they had a lot of budget. They attracted a guy who come from Crawley Town, who was a striker, who was, to me, the best striker in the division. I saw him the week before. He got 20-odd goals, and he got injured. So then they had a bad run, and I was gutted. They went promoted, but Accrington beat them. So they were my big move. They were 8-1. They got backed into 5-1 when the money started coming about. So my biggest wins in football have always been on the lower division, especially League Two, League One, all those kind of stuff. But I do think this season, in the Championship and League One in particular, I think we need to see in League Two who goes down. I think and what the final positions are, who's going to go up. I think that's very important. But I do think already in the Championship, I think if West Brom can end the way they did in the Premier League, and they can appoint Darren Moore as their manager, which obviously is what they want, I think they'll take some stopping. And I think teams that come down from the Premier League always have the parachute payments to attract people. I think they can keep the nucleus of their players. And I think if there was a division between the Championship and the Premier League, West Brom would win it every single season because that's where they are. They're outside just in the division. And I think Sunderland, as we start at the start of the show, will take some stopping in League One as well.
Yeah, great points there. Question for you. At a League One or the Championship, what team from the Premier League is more likely to go up? What you said West Brom. Who's going to make a quick return back to Premier League?
Well, I think Stoke will struggle. I think Stoke will really struggle because I don't think they've got the right manager. I think Lambert's not good enough. I think they're going to lose a lot of key players. I think there's a lot of players there on a lot of money, and they're not going to want to play in the Championship. So I think Stoke will be a team that will struggle to go back. I think Swansea will struggle. They're looking for a manager. They've already told the managers out the season, and I think that uncertainty is not what you want. And I think West Brom now, the last 6 games that Darren Moore had were in charge when Pardew left. They were brilliant. They beat Manchester United. They beat Tottenham. They got a draw against Liverpool. And if they brought him in 5 weeks before, they would have stayed up. I think they would have stayed up. And the players believe in him, and I don't think they'll get rid of anyone. And the one thing you need in the Championship, obviously Wolves wrote this through the rule book away. You need physicality, you need strength, you need experience. And that West Brom side is old. It's sort of players in their 30s, probably not good enough for the Premier League, but they're experienced, they're at a good level, they're strong, they're physical. And it's a right side that will do well in the Championship. I think if Aston Villa or Fulham, whoever doesn't go up from their playoff, I think they'll be amongst the favourites to win next season. But West Brom definitely out of the 3 are the ones who are going to be the strongest next season, without question of that.
I'll tell you a team to look out for. A team that played very well this year in the Championship. Might be a team next year to continue to make sense. Kind of similar to, in a way, Burnley doing it. They're kind of a more known side. But for the wrong reasons, Millwall. Millwall had a great season last year. Neil Harris took them from League One. You look at where they finished this year. You finish, 7th or 8th? They've done a nice job at the Den, Millwall.
Yeah. I think they're going to be one season wonders, though. Really, to be honest with you, I think they haven't got much strength and depth. They've got an aging squad. They wouldn't be. I can't see them doing. I think they'll be priced up a very nice price. If I was looking for a side that out in the London area who could do well, I think Brentford would be. If someone said to me now which one out of the 2, Brentford or Mill, I think Brentford would be a side. They always have more shots. They look at their statistics. They look at analytical stuff. They know what they do with possession, and I think that they'll do very, very well next season. Brentford just missed out in the playoffs. I think they're the side, but I do think West Brom will be the favourites. And I think if Villa or Fulham, whoever don't go up, I think they will be well amongst the favourites to go straight back up. I think the second season for Villa in the Championship, and providing Fulham can keep those talented young players they've got there. They're not far off the finished article. So I think you've got to look for teams that are stable. I mean, this is the big thing. I think West Brom, despite their season, going into that season stable, they've now found the right man at the club. The club had a tough year. Cyril Regis' death. They saw a lot of things off the field. And they're not going to lose a lot of players because a lot of those players aren't egotistical. They're not really. They're sort of seasoned pros. They won't leave. And they want to play for that manager. I think they want to pay him. I think he's got the team straight away on side. And I don't think the same can be said for Stoke. The same definitely can't be said for Swansea. Tammy Abraham will go back to Chelsea. And if you take Tammy Abraham's goals out of Swansea this season, well, they had nothing. So and they'll be looking for a manager as well. So I think stable clubs, Aston Villa, West Brom, and Brentford will be my pick. Millwall, I think mid-table.
One or two more questions here. Wigan and Blackburn. Wigan was absolutely dominant in League One this year. Blackburn Rovers did a nice job. Obviously, Shrewsbury, Rotherham, Scunthorpe, Charlton still alive to get up there as well. A lot of people. One guy in the chat's mentioning he thinks Wigan and Blackburn could ascend top 10. Wigan, I know they're excited about getting back up to Championship football. Paul Cook's done a nice job there. Top 10, definitely got to be for sure, right?
I think they'll do all right. I think I could say that the bottom part of that division is very mediocre. There's a lot of very, and you saw teams like Cardiff last season were amongst the favourites to get relegated, and they got in the playoffs. So I wouldn't be surprised to see one of those sides actually make the playoffs. Probably out of the two, I'd probably go for Wigan. They beat Manchester City in the FA Cup, didn't they?
Yeah,
they beat Manchester City in the FA Cup, so they're going to be full of it, and they'll be capable of beating anyone on any given day. The trouble is with Wigan, it's not a very, they don't get great attendances. Even when they're doing well, it's not a club that's really in a great attendance. There's more empty seats there, and when they're in the Premier League than I can remember in any other team. That would be a problem for me. I want clubs that are packed out, and I think the Hawthorns and I think Villa Park will be getting 40,000. 35,000 people every single week. No team were more heavily supported than Aston Villa last season in the Championship. And if they don't go down, I think those two sides will really dominate next year. I think they'll be doing in the Championship what Blackburn and Wigan did in League One. But saying that, the Championship is such a competitive division. But I think they're the class horses in the race.
Two more points, Nigel, quickly. Where do you stop? Where does the cutoff for you? How low do you go in the lower leagues?
I will only play the four leagues in the Premier League. The Premier League down to League Two in England. I won't look at anybody else, because unless someone told me on the Saturday night, one team in the Ryman haven't been paid their wages and all the players are on strike or something like that, then I wouldn't get involved. Because the thing is, I don't like losing money at the best of times, big man. I don't like losing money at the best of times. But I hate losing money when it's not my pick. When someone else has told me and it's I'll tell you, I bet I'll do this, do that, and I haven't put the research in it. It annoys me more than ever. So I like it when it's my pick. I don't mind losing if it's my pick, but not too much.
I will say I made money on Macclesfield Town in the National League and filed overs. AFC filed overs. Did make money on Salford City, but everyone knows about Salford City now in National League. So what we learned here today, make sure you're watching team news, one player or two players. It's everything for these lower league clubs, League Two, League One. Sunderland might be a team to look out for in League One when those futures come out. Obviously, keep abreast of that. We should return, obviously, when we have all the teams figured out, Nigel, some of these lower leagues, maybe do a little show on who we're predicting for some of these lower leagues. Overall, though, great information. Let's do a video in a couple weeks when we figure everything out. We could pick our relegation candidates and maybe do a little bit more with some of the lower leagues. I was thinking maybe we could try to push Natalie for like a small show each week where we attack some of these lower leagues and try to get our bets in. Maybe have a mini punter show, if you will. Maybe you and I could do that.
Would
or
love
something,
to, mate.
But
would be delighted, mate. So yeah, all good. But I think, like I say, the best bets are those ones we mentioned there, and at League Two, I'm keeping my powder dry. But hopefully, in a couple of weeks' time, we see the players going in and what the are, and if someone's put some money behind a club, we can have a little big sort of banker we can get involved in.
Yeah, that would be great. Last question from a funny question. This isn't really evident anymore because hooligans are kind of a thing of the past, but which team is the nastiest hooligans? If I can, from what I've seen, I would probably say Millwall, Leeds United. What do you say, Nige? You were a hooligan, weren't you, at one point?
No, never. Millwall, Leeds United, Cardiff would be this, and West Ham, Chelsea. They would be the ones synonymous with violence. But me, I'm a lover, not a fighter, big man.
Over here, we watch Green Sheet Hooligans, and we think we know about hooligans. But great stuff, Nigel. Very good. Obviously, you're one of our favorites as far as soccer knowledge. Hopefully, I think we lost Nigel. He had a little bit of a battery issue with one of his computers. But we appreciate everyone checking in. I think it will be important to maybe down the road do some sort of small show, and we'll have to run that by Natalie, see her thoughts. But it is kind of cool because there is some value in some of these lower leagues. But we'll return maybe later in a couple weeks, maybe in the June, kind of before the World Cup, maybe chat about some more futures on who will get relegated, kind of league by league. It's very interesting, and I think there were some great nuggets. So obviously, I think what we learned today Make sure you're checking out team news. Make sure you find your plug, if you will. Find a plug. Find that person. I do it in college basketball, and college football. Find that plug, that blogger, that student, that person that has a website on, Sunderland or something. Find that stuff. Find those little nuggets that you're not going to get that other people aren't going to find. And if you see a team where, let's say you're dealing with an Accrington Stanley team, Billy Key's out. Billy Key's everything to Stanley. So that's obviously going to really affect that team. They don't have the depth. They don't have the ability to plug people in like a higher league would. So, obviously just doing due diligence is homework. That's the key with football betting and really any betting. I mean, just kind of making sure you get the right information, doing your homework to find out who's going to play, what the situations are, and doing the preseason stuff like we're doing now. Just reading and watching can really do wonders. Any of that is part of the game. So thanks to Naja for joining me. Thanks to SBR for letting us do this. And thanks to Natalie for letting me host. Question or two. You still talk? Yeah, I still talk to him. I talked to him last night. Good guy. Payet is out for Marseille. That's tough. You never like to see that, but listen, I'm on Madrid, so I'm not saying I want to see that, but it's not a bad thing. Ergo says he sees a much better season for Hull City next year. Yeah, Hull didn't have a good year at all. I mean, they were a team that was up in the Premier League just a year or two ago as well. You look at the big problem for them is they could score goals. That wasn't the problem. It was keeping goals out. I mean, they give up almost 70 goals this season. That's too many. You're down with the likes of Birmingham and Bolton Wanderers and Burton Albion and Barnsley. Those are the bad sides, and unfortunately, they just couldn't keep goals out. I think Middlesbrough is interesting, but that Tony Pulis system seems to just not work. They don't score enough goals. Fulham, if they kind of stay down, I think they could be a candidate to go up. They have a ton of money behind them to go out and buy. That's always important. So, kind of a hodgepodge of info here, but it was a great show. Really enjoyed it. Thanks to everyone for checking it out. Also, keep in mind, this is important. We have a ton of World Cup coverage coming up here at SBR Forum. Some of the biggest, most watched videos have come from the World Cup. You're going to want to tune in. We are the soccer headquarters for World Cup. Do not go to these people that just bet on the World Cup every 4 years and act like they know what they're talking about. We have cut our teeth all season in these leagues. We know the players. We know the teams. We know the situations. Come to us. Give back to us for all the stuff that we've done as far as World Cup qualifying, Euro qualifying. I mean, Natalie, me, Martin, Stuart, Alex, Nigel, Flash, everyone that I missed. We've all been integral. Natalie hosting. We've all been integral in just doing everything involving soccer. We are your headquarters for sports betting in the World Cup. Make sure you join us. We're getting to every match, every nook and cranny we're going to cover. Make sure we're your headquarters for World Cup 2018 in Russia. Can't wait. Very excited. I'm already putting my futures in. I'm pumped up. I can't wait. I'm moving. I'm ready to go. Thanks to Johan for producing the show. I am the Big Man on Campus. This has been a look at the championship and the lower leagues in England. We'll be back next time. We'll take a look as the dust settles. Everyone have a great night. Bye-bye.